Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are all set for the next session, and the title of the session is Planning for Change in the World's Rapidly Developing Regions. Change is always challenging, and we ought to change with times, and we have witnessed a lot of change in last few years in our own sector, the airport and aviation sector. If we were to look at all that we have discussed during the day, we found that we are not, despite all the progress that we have made, not all of us are satisfied all the time. We all want innovation, we want to bring in changes, and it's for the leaders like you sitting here who have to come out with changes for others who want to get into the industry to follow. And I think through the interaction that we have gone through, we find that this part of the world, the Middle East, has left an imprint all over the world by creating facilities which are so well organized and so much welcomed all over the world. So we would have a galaxy of 4 speakers today who would tell us how they have been able to bring in change, with what advantages in the activities they have been indulging into. There are some offbeat subjects today. One of them, as you would come to know very soon, is the business aviation. We all talked about commercial aviation, but business aviation is one sector which is rapidly growing and needs its rightful place in the aviation domain. So to start, I would request Mr. P.S. Nair, the Chief Executive Officer, Corporate GMR, to please come and take his seat. Then we have Mr. Ali Al-Naqbi, the Founding Chairman, Middle East Business Aviation Association. May I request you to come, Ali? We have Vincent Thomas, whom we heard a short while back, but this time he comes and tells us something different, more connected to business aviation, because he has done something unique at his airports, which will tell us how it dovetails with what Ali has to tell us. And then we have Duncan Alexander, the Coordinator, Middle East and Africa for PATA. Martin Craigs was actually to come, but Duncan would take care of this part because he's well versed with the functioning of, and he's also the Middle East and Africa Chief Coordinator. So we'll start with Mr. Nair, and the question that we thought would be most apt for him to respond is, what are the common challenges shared by airports in emerging markets? That's one. How is it possible to plan for changes in policies and politics? Why we insist on policies and politics, that during the discussion today we felt that a major impediment in the growth is at times the government, be it federal or local government. So how could the emerging market come out with successful plans despite all that resistance, and how in his own personal case he has been able to overcome them? As we have already introduced him, but I will just give you a very small synopsis. He's got about 37 years of diverse experience in the airport sector, both in the public and private domain. He has held several senior positions, such as airport director of various airports while he was with the Airports Authority of India. His last position in the organization was that of a member who is second to the chairman. He decided to quit, otherwise he would have been the chairman. And he joined the GMR group, which was really coming into India in a very big way, and the result is so very obvious. We have the best airports, 2 best airports in India, done by the GMR group under his supervision, and he happened to be the CEO of both later on after the airports were commissioned. And also he's the CEO of the Istanbul airport. So PS, may I request you to set the ball rolling by giving us 2 answers in 5 minutes. I'm sorry for being so nasty, but that's the way it is.
I won't take time. Without much ado, let me share the challenges faced in transforming two of the major airports in India, a greenfield airport, namely the Hyderabad International Airport, and then the country's most busiest airport, namely the Indira Gandhi International Airport in Delhi. Now, as you know, Hyderabad was the country's first public-private partnership model airport in the true sense, in the sense that, there was no government control, although government holds 26% of the stake. In Hyderabad Airport, incidentally, GMR holds 63% of the stake, and then we had Malaysian airports as partner with 11% stake, and government holds 13% by the local government and 13% by the central government through Airports Authority of India. And I think coming to challenges, land acquisition was a real challenge. And of course, we went for as to how we tackled this issue was that, we walked that extra mile in accommodating the entire people who were to be displaced for the project. And incidentally, the Hyderabad Airport has 5,500 acres of land. And we took care of the entire people, and we even provided employment to the whole lot of people who were displaced. And then, of course, the booming traffic was at that juncture, warranted a de novo review of the entire the planning. We had to revise the entire, even the midway. We had to do a midway correction. It was originally designed for 5 million, which we, at a later stage, we made it 8 million. And we found midway that, yes, this won't suffice, and then we made it to 12 million. So as of now, finally, the end product was 12 million passenger per annum. And I think one of the greatest challenges in the public-private partnership model was the stakeholder management. When I say stakeholder management, hitherto, or the regulators like the Director General of Civil Aviation, the immigration, the customs, the security, all, you had a different mindset altogether. So managing the stakeholder was a major challenge. And then, of course, we had also the challenge of synchronizing the air traffic control functions. It was a greenfield airport, so you needed the air traffic control to be ready. And the terminal was, the rest of the airport was ready. So that posed a challenge, and we had to do a lot of backseat driving for tackling that issue. If you ask me, very frankly, the greatest challenge we faced was that for developing the human capital. And we had the option to, take people from the Airports Authority of India who were the trained one. But for two reasons, we didn't do it. Number one, they were a stakeholder. 13% stakeholder. We didn't want to deprive them of the trained people. And then number two was that, we didn't want them to carry the baggage with them, So we went for our own recruitment and trained them. We did the competency mappings very scientifically of each of the people who we selected, identify the training need for each one of them, tailor-made the program for them. In the process, we also established a training academy, known as the GMR Aviation Academy, and upskilled each one of them. And it was a continuous process. By now, I can proudly say that, yes, they are second to none. And then we had the city connectivity, a major challenge. The airport was, the Greenfield Airport was constructed far away, and there were a lot of resentment, including court cases and things like that. But what we did was a lot of backseat driving. We even upfront paid the state government to create an elevated express highway where we contributed, and we could challenge that. Now nobody talks about the distance into the airport. And but there are quite a few many other challenges one great challenge was the timeline. We had to complete it in 34 months' time. A terminal of, I think it is 100,000 and 108,000 square meters of built-up area And the rest is all history, as you know. The airport was rated as the country's best, the world's best in the airport service quality, as rated by the Airport Council International, which, as all of you know, is the apex body of global airports. During the first year itself, it was rated as the first. And the key takeaway, I would say, was the effective stakeholder management. And we did, and that is what answers Indrajit's, as to what is that magic plan. If you ask me frankly, I won't say that privatization is the panacea for all evils. Certainly no. But I think if you do it right, the stakeholder management part of it, you can do a lot. And to be fair to government is, the processes are so robust. My previous organization and Indrajit's previous organization, Airport Authority, have got very sound processes, but the focus is on procedure, not on result. So that it's highly procedure-oriented, and that makes the difference. And that's what we could extricate ourselves. And then I'm now coming to the Brownfield Airport development in Indira Gandhi Airport. It was the second busiest, at that juncture, the second most busiest airport of the country. And we had saturated, when we took over, we were handling, I think, some 14 million passengers, but today it handled 34 million passengers. And then we had all the terminals saturated. We had even one of the domestic terminals which was of pre-World War structure. Okay, and we had to complete 32 mandated capital works, major works, including a new runway, including a new terminal building, which is the world's 8th largest integrated terminal, as I said, the T3, and many other works in an overall time span of 37 months. And we could do it. We had to also refurbish the old terminal, what we call the Terminal 1C, the domestic arrival, and then Terminal 1A, one of the domestic departure terminals, and then Terminal 2, the then international passenger terminal building, without disrupting the ongoing passenger operations. So it was a stupendous task, but we could do it. And then we also had to relocate 3 major villages, which was going on for several years, but we did it intelligently, and we did successfully. And we had 52 agencies occupying various structures there in the location where we were to build and modernize build the new terminal, and that was a daunting task. And eventually, to cut the story short, that 550,000 square meters of terminal built-up space of terminal was constructed in 37 months, and before the Commonwealth Games, and probably that was the only work that was completed on time or before time. And we did it. I think as to how we could do was we had. I think the success was because for 2 major reasons. Number one, we had a dedicated team and an inspired team, and they were determined to do it. And I used to tell them, I played golf, and they did the work. And that's how we could do it. And number 2 was the stakeholder management again. And the key takeaway, I would say, is that inter- and intra-agency coordination, and that was done very, very effectively. And I think, to be fair to the government, we had the tacit support of the government. And then so much so, we had the country's highest civil servant, the cabinet secretary, a committee where he used to chair, and because it involves several departments, interagency and intra-agency issues, So he used to chair that, and we used to get the issues, raise the flag. I used to flag the issues, and he used to give the decision then and there, and we used to implement, which was, it boasts on all those departments, and that's how we could tackle. I think if I had time, probably I could have spoken for 2 hours, but in the set 5 minutes. So I thought these are some of the issues, I mean, experience which I could share with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nair. I think you brought out some very pertinent points, and I liked one thing, which is the attitudinal change. The mindset of people have to be changed. Like they say, planning for change in the world's rapidly developing regions. The regions are developing very rapidly, but the mindset is not developing. It's stuck somewhere. So if some of us who are really leaders in the profession decide to change our minds, our attitudes, I think there will be real change. Like they say, you can take the horse to the water, but you can't force the horse to take water. So unless a person is acceptable to receive change, they'll not change. Let's hope things change for better, and they are changing. Let's be more optimistic. Now we have a distinguished speaker in Mr. Ali Al-Naqvi, and a topic which is probably close to everybody's heart here. We have heard so much about commercial aviation, but there is one segment of aviation which really needs a lot of attention, and that is business aviation. After all, you leaders have to reach at the right spot in the right time. If you can't make it, nobody is waiting for your arrival. There is so much of competition in industry, not in aviation, even outside. So if we have the means to reach, after all, in the morning we discussed what is important these days is logistics and connectivity. What better connectivity can be given better than a business aviation domain? To very briefly introduce Mr. Ali, he has more than 22 years of experience in the aviation industry, having started his career in the high-profile segment of VIP air transportation before diversifying his interest into business aviation with a specific emphasis on the Middle East region. I would extend it to global now. Having read your background and seeing you on the cover of a magazine, don't confine yourself only to Middle East. He led to the creation of Royal Jet, a business aviation venture of which he was the founding managing director. He is currently associated with Presidential Flight, Abu Dhabi, as Vice President, Finance and Administration. Mr. Ali is an elected member of the International Business Aviation Council. Now, I'm sure you have many questions, but I have one question for you, Ali. I would request you, while you are presenting your case, to answer the two questions which we have posed to you. One is, what are the common challenges shared by airports in emerging markets? Is there a business case for a separate passenger terminal for premium class passengers like first and business class? This is a question which is on the mind of many people, that should an airport like Dubai Airport, which is so very busy with commercial movements, can afford to have business aviation, which comparatively is smaller. Important, there is no denying to the fact, but it is not as fast as a large A380 or A320. So would he suggest or analyze this situation and broaden our horizon by giving answers to these questions? And what is the reason with focus on the biggest challenge for operators and FOBs? So with these two questions, we would request you to advise us on how to handle these problems. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Would you like to sit there? Yes. Please, feel free. Relax.
It's different organized. Anyway, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to have you still with us. By the way, we cannot see you, so you can, wave, or I cannot see you very well because there's the lights here. The question have many sort of perspective direction, and I would put it in my own way. And we're going to talk about business aviation airport. The subject of the conference and the forum is airport, so let's talk about business aviation airport. Do we have enough business aviation airport in the region? The answer is no. In fact, we have only one. So our message here as MIBA for the government of the Middle East and North Africa, that they should consider in their plan to have a business aviation airport, not only a commercial airport as such as which can be taken the wide-body aircraft, but also a consideration for business aviation. Because the fact is this sector is really growing. And the infrastructure which we have in the Middle East, when I talk about Middle East, I've really, and North Africa, and particularly in UAE and Saudi and Doha, we need really to consider in the airborne plan of the government of each of those countries. Because, as I mentioned, the business aviation sector is really growing. And the facility that supporting the business aviation is not there. We have to share the airport with the airline. Now, if I give one example of Dubai International Airport, for example, we cannot fly from 6 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock in the morning because Emirates Airlines is taking all this time slot. So if business aviation wanted to go, if a head of companies, the CEOs of the chairman wanted to go for a meeting to Oman next door or to Bahrain, he has to wait until 12 o'clock. Well, we fly on demand. We don't fly on schedule as an airline does. So therefore, we need to have the alternative, and the alternative is not there. Today we have only one airport in the whole Middle East and North Africa, which is in Abu Dhabi, which is Al Bateen Airport. And we need to have more airports to be able to conduct and to be able to transport your CEOs, your chairman. It is a purely business tool to utilize it in the most efficient way. There's a lot of challenge. We don't have enough FBOs, which is fixed base operation. That is required in most of the airports. Today, in the whole Middle East, if you look at the number of fixed base operation, which is the organization which service the business aviation aircraft, we have about 10 in the whole entire Middle East and North Africa. Again, we don't have the facility for maintenance. We need to have a lot of facility of maintenance. So, putting all this together, we need to consider, the government must consider when they do a planning of any cities to have a business aviation airport. Now, what does it need to have a business aviation airport? What are we talking about? We are really talking about one runway and a very small, tiny building that we can have the sort of majlis or a lounge, if you want to call it a lounge, and couple offices for immigration and for passport control, and that's it. We don't need more thing. If I look today I give example of New York, for example, we have 11 business aviation airports, and we have one in the whole Middle East and North Africa. I'll leave it to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. I'm sure there will be many questions when the turn comes. I just thought about it. Why we get stuck with these big airports for business aviation? Can't we have seaplanes parked along the coast? We don't go to the airport, we take off from there because your type of planes are smaller relatively. So, just a free thought. You can challenge, but it just occurred to me, I said, with a coastal line that we have in Dubai, or let's say Mumbai, a businessman can have a seaplane parked right next door to his house. They all live near the coasts, you know that.
Sure.
So why should they drive to a busy airport through the traffic? Just go take a seaplane and go off.
Well, it's a
You
logical
want me to be your
question.
consultant?
No, I think that's a logical question.
All right, we have Vincent again with us. He was with us in the afternoon today. And since he has tried and developed business aviation in his own airport as CEO of Pembrey Airport, maybe he can share with us or supplement to what Ali has already said. So, Vincent, we are all ears for you. Please start. 5 minutes.
Thank you. I want to elaborate a little bit because having flown as a cockpit pilot for a number of years, then I've got a hands-on experience of what facilities are available and how the executive jets are handled in the larger airports. There are restrictions, but on the other hand, a lot of airports are accommodating the smaller jets by providing separate facilities, and they can have refueling and transportation from the airport to their destinations. Again, the infrastructure is very important because the executive jet arriving at the airport, they need the facilities to actually get to their destination, whether it's by car, rail or road, whichever. With us at Pembrey, we're on the main direct railway line to London Paddington. So I know it's a little bit far out, but on the other hand, we're in a microclimate in Pembrey. We don't get snow problems. In Heathrow and some of the larger airports, they get snow problems during the winter time. But with the executive jets, they can land at Pembrey during the whole of the winter, or on the other aircraft wants to divert because of the importance of that flight, they can divert to Pembrey. Now, we're working very hard to extend the runway at Pembrey to accommodate the very large aircraft. And we can do this in the next year or so. It's very quickly, because the reason being the existing military runway is already there. That's all we have to do is refurbish it. So we can achieve 2,400 meters basically within the next 12 months. And then we've still got the capabilities of going up to 3,400 meters if we need to. That's 11,000 feet, almost the same size as Heathrow Airport. So again, going back to the question, the accommodating executive jets in the larger airports, the hub airports, can be achieved. Of course, you have to recognize now that that's increasing. And the larger airports are doing a lot of effort to accommodate the executive jets. So we're getting there, but again, there's room for improvement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vincent. And now we have Duncan Alexander, the coordinator of PATA in the Middle East and Africa region. PATA, as you probably all know, is a not-for-profit membership association that acts as a catalyst for the development of travel and tourism within the Asia-Pacific region. The association provides travel industry leadership and counsel to over 80 governments, nearly 50 international airlines, airports and cruise lines, and many hundreds of travel industry companies across Asia, Pacific and beyond. The question which we thought Duncan would be the right person to analyze and tell us is, how may airport leaders create a vision for the future? What would it look like? Vision is very, very important. Vision is, if I may just share with you what the great guru of India, Swami Vivekananda, when he was speaking, not in an airport conference generally, one blind man got up and he said, you are talking about material things, you are talking spirituality and all. What is it for me? I am blind. So Swami Vivekananda, the well-known philosopher and guru of India with spirituality, said, you don't have eyes, but you have vision. So you don't have to have eyes to see in the future. All that you need is a very ripe mind and analytical mind to draw a vision. Please draw that vision for us.
Well, thank you very much. And firstly, I'd like to apologise on behalf of Martin, the CEO of PATA, who sadly couldn't make it very last minute. So he asked if I could step in and answer the question about vision and about growth. It's well documented. We know how visionary the UAE has been, and we do know how visionary Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid particularly has been. When he saw Singapore, and he saw what a place that had absolutely no infrastructure to begin with, had no large conurbation of people to draw upon, but realized that looking at history, the great civilizations of the world were started around major seaports. And for 2 millennia, shipping was the mode of transportation. We then fast forward and we suddenly start the whole new era of rail transportation. And new cities were able to be created around that. We then have the motor industry that comes along. And again, big cities like Detroit, just built totally out of a new mode of transportation and the industrial infrastructure to create new machinery. Of course, now what we have are the great aerotropolises of the world. And there's a wonderful book that was written in 2011 by Greg Lindsay and John Casada. If you don't know this book, Aerotropolis, get on Amazon, buy it. It's an absolute must for anybody in our industry. And it really just gets to the point that the future economies of the world will be built around fantastic aerotropolises. Now, I just recently attended the PATA Annual General Assembly in Bangkok, and at that, Martin coined, which I think is a fantastic new phrase, and that is engaging the complete visitor economy. So the concept there is very simple, that it isn't about the vision of one person. There's absolutely nothing an airport leader can do on their own. They might have all the vision, they might want to expand, but there's nowhere they can go if they're in a straitjacket. And if they're not coordinated together, government, private sector, working in unison, investing together on a vision, on a strategy. So Paul said earlier, he feels immensely fortunate here, in the fact that there is that vision. He has that backing. And we were talking about maybe what I should do is sort of highlight some examples of this beyond Dubai. But my father was a great fan of spaghetti westerns, and one of his most favorite spaghetti western was The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. We've heard about the good, the UAE, but Paul was first to admit that it's not excellent. And it's not excellent because he knows there are still issues that have to be addressed. Air traffic control was the major one he mentioned, but also the other one that he didn't mention, and I'm sure there are people here who may have wanted to ask the question, was immigration. Because it's a poor place to arrive at Dubai after 12:30. It really is poor, and he knows that. But what he's doing, and with vision with other partners, is now addressing that. And this is something that will transform Dubai, and it's actually going to transform the UAE downstream. And that is just using the technologies that are available to enable people to transit and pass seamlessly through the airport, because they're known to the airport, they're known to the authorities. Outbound, it's fabulous. If you happen to be a Gold Card member or you have the e-gate, it's a fingerprint and a swipe of a card and you've left the country. You go to Britain, you take your biometric passport, you put it down, you're in the country. That's seamless travel. There are 10 countries in the Asian marketplace who are getting together to create a Schengen-style, borderless economy, the complete visitor economy. So once you're inside one of those borders in 2015, you're free to move around that territory, very much like you can in Europe. Now, that's not the vision down to one airport owner. That's down to the vision of a bunch of economies getting together saying, how are we going to transform, how are we going to shape things? And so therefore, if I look at the good, we're good here. If I look at the bad and take that border issue, where here in the UAE, we must have in the region of about 250,000 people with a disposable economy to visit India on a short trip. They don't go because it takes too long to get a visa. You can't do it spontaneously. You can't just jump on an Indigo flight. It just takes too long to get a visa. It's a hugely wasted economic opportunity. And so lastly, I'll come to the ugly. And this, I must say, I'm a bit ashamed about because I am from the United Kingdom. However, I am Scottish. So I'll just make that point. And the ugly is Britain. which isn't so great about aviation. Decades since we last built a runway. Decades since we've debated about building a runway. And to add to it, over the last 2 years, 3 years, all they've done is tax travelers. They don't take any of that money, they don't put it back into the economy, they don't put it back into the aviation sector, they don't reinvest it in any way, shape or form in air traffic control systems, which we know are a problem, in runways, which we know there's a problem, and quite frankly, the United Kingdom will be bypassed. Thank you.
Thank you, Duncan. Thank you very much. The catch point was the good, the bad, and the ugly. In such leaders' forum, it's best to bring the bad and the ugly to the forefront. Good we know, we acknowledge, and we thank. It's good going. But whole idea is to be analytical and a bit critical, with no offense meant to anybody. The idea is to see what's wrong in our system, which we can raise up, flag it, discuss it over, analyze, debate, and then settle it. Rather than settling without debating, we debate and then settle it. So thank you very much from this side. Now, if there's any question, we have a minute or so for a question to be answered. Otherwise, we'll have many more occasions tomorrow to meet. Yes, please.
Peter Besekra, Pembrey Airport, UK. Not such a question as an observation from Mr. Ali when he said there is a lack of business aviation airports in this part of the world. When you look at other major cities, say for example, take Singapore, what they've done is they've developed the old airport, Seletar Airport, to be the hub of business aviation with all the facilities, FBOs, the whole gamut of things. Look to Malaysia. When the new KLIA airport came on stream, the old airport Subang has become the GA airport, business aviation airport. If you look at Australia, Melbourne, when Tullamarine came on stream, the old airport Essendon has become the business aviation airport. So there are many, many examples. So maybe here in this part of the world, when the new airports are being further developed, the old then been replaced by maybe GA airports, business aviation airports. Maybe that might be a trend to go. That was my observation.
Well, that's exactly what has been happening here. If we look at the first airport in Abu Dhabi, it was an old Abu Dhabi International Airport. So that's exactly the same trend. But our observation as an association, that is not enough. The demand and the growth in the business aviation in this area is so huge and so big. We cannot have one airport every 10 years for business aviation. It would not work. And we cannot continue flying in the big international airport. So there's a lot of military bases which is being left alone. What we're saying, okay, utilize those for business aviation, private aviation, and so on and so forth. So that's what's exactly the same. We're not throwing a problem to the government, but actually we are proposing a solution as well.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you for clarifying this issue. So with your permission, we bring an end to this session. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, panelists.
Thank you.